Hey, what's going on guys? CoreX Designs here and welcome to another 3D Studio Max tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's, something that's out of the box and something that's not actually talked about when we talk about 3D Studio Max. And then that is called cloth simulation. So 3D Studio Max is probably the most powerful 3D software that you can get. And stuff like this, such as liquid simulation and cloth simulation, these are stuff, mass body simulation, these are stuff that actually make 3D Studio Max the most powerful 3D software out there. So what we're trying to do today is, simulate a cloth falling on an object. So we're going to be simulating a cloth that simulating in the sense, we make the cloth fall on something that's rigid. So if you actually have a tablecloth, if you you of course have a tablecloth, and you've actually tried to spread it on your table, you see that the cloth actually deforms in a very organic kind of way, and you'll be surprised to know that it is actually possible in 3D Studio Max to achieve that amount of realism, and it really looks cool. So the first thing you need to do is go ahead and create a plane in, let's say, the top viewport, and we just make it somewhat this large. Okay, the size and the position doesn't really matter. So we have this plane here, and what we're trying to do is, if you have actually felt a cloth, it's actually made of really small pieces. I'm not talking about molecules right now, but when it deforms in a very organic kind of way. So right now, if you try to deform this plane, you only have like 1, 2, 3 restrictions. But if you have a lot of restrictions and then you try to deform it, that will look a lot more organic. So what I mean by that is, if we increase the length segments to something like 100 and the width segments to something like 100, we see that we get a lot of small blocks constituting this actual plane. So what that does is basically give us more segments to deform this cloth on. So now we have like 100 segments to deform this cloth on in the length and 100 in the width. So that way we can achieve a lot more organic results. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and move this up just a bit. Okay, so this is going to be our cloth. So let's go ahead and rename this to cloth. And now let's go ahead and create something that the cloth falls on. So I think I'm just going to create a box for the sake of this tutorial, and just make it this large, and just move to the center, and rename this box to, let's say, table. So we're going to be assuming this box to be a table and the plane to be a cloth, and what we're trying to do is simulate the cloth falling on this table. Okay, so that is extremely simple and something that's not expected. So I'm just going to take this plane and apply a modifier called cloth. Okay, so 3D Studio Max is already, starting to treat this plane as a cloth, but we need to change a few settings here. So what we need to do is go ahead and click Object Properties here, and we have our cloth, which is actually the plane. So we have 3 kinds of objects here, which is inactive, cloth, and collision object. What inactive means is it will not participate at all in the simulation, and when we simulate it, 3D Studio Max will treat as if the object does not exist. Okay, that is inactive. Cloth, this is pretty self-explanatory. 3D Studio Max will treat the object as a cloth. The third thing, which is collision object, is also pretty self-explanatory. 3D Studio Max will treat it as an object that the cloth will fall onto. I mean, this collision object will stay in its position, it will not move at all. And it's something like a table. It will not move, but the cloth will fall onto the table. So for this cloth, of course, it's going to be a cloth, and we have a ton of presets here. So these are different kinds of cloth materials that you can find in the world: burlap, cashmere, wool, cotton, silk, and stuff. So we have presets set up, and you can see that if we change one of these presets, we change the overall UV bend and all these crazy looking settings. I have no idea what some of them means, but people don't usually delve into this. So you can actually change the presets according to your needs. For example, if you're simulating a tablecloth, you're probably going to be needing cotton, or if you're simulating silk, you will need silk. It actually depends on your choice and on your requirements. For now, I'm just going to leave it to the blank or the default values, and that's going to pretty much suffice for us right now. Next thing we do is hit Add Objects, and we take our table and hit Add here. Okay, So if you guys understood what I said in the last 5 minutes or something, you're probably guessing that this table is not inactive but a collision object, and this is because the table is actually something that the cloth will fall onto. So the table is a collision object, and the cloth is a cloth object, of course. So you can add more objects here, and make it collision, inactive, and all that stuff, and it's pretty cool. So we're just gonna hit OK here, and that should be it. And yes, that is it. Next step here would be simply to hit simulate here and wait for this box to pop up, and you can see that the gravity is acting on this cloth here, and it's falling on the table or the box, and in some time you'll be able to see that the cloth starts deforming itself. I just hit F4 to hide those lines here. Okay, so now you can see the cloth has started deforming, but the box is visible as if it's tearing through the cloth. That's no worries here. I just want to hit cancel here. And if you want to fix that, what you need to do is go ahead and hit object properties here, and go to cloth and apply a preset here. So right now it was none, and let's say we add, I don't know, silk here. Okay, and let's go back to frame 0. As you can see, the cloth has actually had kind of like keyframes here, and if you go ahead and move back in the key this portion here, it will actually move back. So we go ahead and go back to frame 0, and we hit erase simulation, and then we hit simulate again. So this way we can restart the simulation at any time we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here, and I'll just resume it when the entire simulation has been done. Okay, so as you can see, the cloth simulation is done pretty much. I just did it to frame 30 just to show you guys. So okay, so we have a couple of problems here, and that is the table or the box is actually peeking out of the cloth as if the cloth has been torn. And the reason this is happening is because cloth doesn't really treat sharp surfaces too well. So if you have a really sharp surface such as this box here, the cloth simulation will have problems. But if you take this box and add turbo smooth or something to this, let's say turbo smooth here. Okay, so you can move this this cloth up. Okay, so we have this, and if you go ahead and create these iterations of like 4, okay, and that becomes entirely round now. So if we take this cloth now, hit erase simulation, and then hit simulate again. I'm going to pause the video, of course, and then I'm just going to show you the change that we have here. So we hit simulate here. Okay, so again, I did not complete the entire simulation, but as you can see, the cloth looks a lot more real now, and also we don't have that segmenting and the breaking of edges. One more thing that I forgot to tell you guys is you want to shift this turbo smooth before the cloth. No, of course. And the reason for that is if you move it above the cloth modifier, the simulation will take place before, and the turbo smooth will take place afterwards, so that won't actually make a difference. So that's why we need to put turbo smooth down and the cloth above. So as you can see, the amount of realism that we can achieve here, and look at the amount of organic stuff that we get here. This cloth looks really realistic, and if you go ahead and render this out, it won't look as beautiful right now because there are no materials applied, but still looks really organic and cool. So this was exactly what I was talking about. What the hell is this? Okay, when I said that the cloth is very organic. Okay, so this was some of the basics of cloth, and what I'm going to do now is show you one of the projects that I did a while ago, and that's really going to make this really good. So I'm going to hit open here, and I have an Iron Man helmet that I modeled some while ago, and I struck this idea of a cloth revealing the helmet. So what that does is basically we have a cloth, and that reveals the helmet that is below it, and that looks really cool. So as you can see, we have a cloth here, and we have the Iron Man helmet here. Sure looks cool. And what we do here is if we go ahead and move forward, we see that the cloth actually falls in the helmet, and I've actually simulated this the entire length of the time. Of course, one more thing that I forgot to tell you guys is the number of frames that we have here. We have 100 frames here, so the cloth simulation will take place for 100 frames. As you can see, 101. 101 because frame number 0 is a frame, of course, also. So if you want to simulate it for a longer amount of time, something like 3 seconds or something more, you need to have a larger number of frames on the track bar. The larger amount of frames you have, the larger, or the farther the simulation will go. So as you can see, we can actually see some pretty decent details here. You can see that this part here is actually this one here, and this actually looks really cool, and I kind of worked hard on this a little more, and I think we can go ahead and have a look at the properties here. So as you can see, I've not grouped up all the Iron Man helmet parts into one. They're actually separate parts. So all of these are collision objects, as you can see. All of these are collision objects except plane number 002, which is the cloth, and I have the preset of silk, I guess, and that's how much I remember. So as you can see, this actually looks cool. Now what you can do here with this is go ahead and render this out to 100 frames and then play it back in the opposite sense. So what we get here is a cloth that actually reveals our model, and that actually looks pretty cool. It doesn't look that cool on smaller models, but if you actually have a car, this actually blows over your mind on how realistic and how cool that car will look once it's unveiled by a cloth. So that was exactly what I wanted to show you guys, this unveiling animation with a cloth. So I hope you guys found this tutorial useful, and I'll be more than happy if you use this technique of cloths in more of your projects. Of course, one more thing that I can say is, if you want the cloth to look more realistic, you need to increase the number of segments on this plane that we have here. I think I used 200 or 200 or something like 300 by 300 on this plane, and on the previous one, as you can see, we have a lot more detail on this cloth than we had on the previous one, as you can see here. And the reason for this is simply that we have a lot more segments here than the previous one. So more detail is equal to more segments, equal to a larger render time, and of course a larger simulation time. So yeah, this is pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope you guys found this useful. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button down below, subscribe to my channel for newer upcoming videos. Also, you can go ahead and give me suggestions on what my next video should be in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys actually use this technique to create some of your own projects, you can always submit them as a video response down below, or send me a personal message. I always reply to that, and I will sure go ahead and look at your project. I'll be more than happy to look at it. So thanks for watching, everyone, and yeah, I hope you use this this kind of like a suppressed feature of 3D Studio Max in your upcoming projects. So thanks for watching, everyone, and have a nice day.